Little gas for the garden.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this one, we had a couple of different ones in London.
Yeah.
And this one has been the most sturdy by far.
Nice.
Because you get ones that literally just blow away.
Yeah, of course.
And you're like, for fuck's sake. Yeah, we left one. I think we went camping once or went on holiday and we literally left it in London.
Really?
And then it just came back and it was
gosh.
half destroyed. Yeah, this is called ABC Canopy.
Nice.
It's
I'll
really good.
have to check that out.
But yeah, this is the first one we've done in the garden.
This is it.
It's very chilled.
I feel
Relaxed.
privileged. Super.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's sunny Worthing. It's a little bit windy,
Yes.
but very sunny and very nice.
Yeah, man.
Very chilled.
And I must say, I loved the drive coming down. It was very. I mean, I put it into the sat nav and it said hour 20 minutes. Thought it was going to be a much longer drive, but it really depends on your views.
100%.
You know, all that kind of thing. It did not feel long at all.
Even those M23 when you get down there.
Yeah.
And those like long roads, straight roads where you're like, oh.
It was
I
nice.
can see the
nice
downs.
exactly, man. Nice and straightforward. So
And a lot of it is at night as well. They don't put the lights on.
Right.
There's no lights on basically running all the way down.
Okay.
Because the animals come and like, I think if the lights were there, the animals would come from the downs.
I see.
And then run into the road.
And of course, you must have to do that quite often when you come back from a gig. Yeah.
Sometimes like 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh man, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah.
But where we used to live, we can park there, so we just go southwest London,
Okay.
Park up.
Nice and easy. Oh, so you
town.
still have access to where you.
Well, it's just basically we know where the free parking is.
Oh, sensible.
So we just get there, get on the tube.
Of course, done.
So if you want to know about logistics,
That's it.
travel logistics.
Nice.
So what first got you into music? I don't know if we've really spoken about that.
That's a great question. And do you know, depending on who I'm speaking to, I come up with a different answer. But and because I think if I'm thinking about singing, just as a hobby, singing, I think I've always done that. I've always just sung songs that I enjoyed. In terms of
What, in the house, around and about?
exactly that, all my favourite music. My dad used to have a lot of good music. I would call, a lot of Stevie Wonder he played in the house, Michael Jackson, UB40. Used to have a lot of records.
Yeah.
And there was always music playing. My mum used to listen to a lot of Celine Dion. And remember, what's quite interesting is that they came to the UK in the 70s. So a lot of Western music they didn't have access to in Sierra Leone. So they came and were probably just feasted on new music that they were now privy to or whatever. So they were quite big fans of a lot of music and played a lot of it in the house. So yeah, as I said, we grew up listening to a lot of different music. So I've always been, I guess, musical.
Yeah.
Always
Makes such a difference.
Yeah,
having parents that have good music.
Definitely. And having siblings that were also into it as well, that played a part. So I'm a twin. So we were always kind of doing, like, singing in unison and doing harmonies, like kind of understanding that two people had to do different singing parts from a very young age. That was quite interesting. Cool. Yeah, so that was so.
My twins do that.
Do they?
Anyway, without even thinking about it, yeah, they're always singing.
Yeah, it's
quite cool. Their school has like a day. I don't know if it's once a week or once a month.
Okay.
Where they put on like kind of influential kind of people to look up to, and they play music to them in the assemblies. So recently they've been playing like Pink to them.
Oh wow!
And there's a tune with her and her daughter.
Yeah.
Cover Me in Sunshine. They all sing it together. They all sit there and they listen to music.
That's
They've been doing like Ain't No Mountain stuff, loads of Marvin Gaye.
Proper music.
Just play it.
Yeah.
Play it in the assemblies.
That's amazing.
Which we didn't know about. And they started singing things. I was like, is he singing Ain't No Mountain? Like, what?
Oh, that's amazing.
So you used to do that with your twin? You used to do like
we used to,
harmonies.
well, because we're twins as well, like, and having, I guess, kind of the same influences, we used to burst out in song at exactly the same time. So there could be like silence.
Do you believe in that whole twin kind of intuition?
Do I believe in it? I think it happens because it happened to us, right? Yeah. So, and it's just your influences or whatever. So, if there's a kind of moment of silence or whatever, and you're thinking creatively in your brain, you're going to burst out in song. And I just think because we had the same influences around us, that just used to happen to us. If there was a song or whatever that had been played to us recently quite a lot, that used to happen all the time. We'd be walking to school, and we'd start singing the same song exactly the same time. So I guess I do believe in it. But rolling it back to how that had an influence in terms of me and music, I was, as I said, always inspired by my parents and my siblings enjoying that music. And then, so I would say, that's what first got me into it. But then in terms of professionally, definitely when I got to kind of secondary school, so I'd say like year 7, because my older sister, her ex-partner used to be a producer, still is a producer. And I don't know if you remember a group called Big Brothers in the UK. They had a song called New Flow. I think it was a top 10 hit in the UK. And he was a producer. He was one of the producers of that song. So he was always into loads of music. We used to go and visit my sister. And I used to like all the CDs he had. I'd be playing all the different music because I loved it. It was like all R&B, all that kind of stuff. He had all of the different CDs. So I'd be playing the different music, like just listen to all these new songs I'd never heard of. And he's singing along, and he used to always say to my sister, he can really sing. He can really, really sing. So, and I never thought much of it. I was just doing it for entertainment. But he was always encouraging me to like kind of do it more and, sing this song, you'd be good on this one.
That's cool.
And then that kind of inspired me to buy more and more R&B because, he had a lot of, this is like, Boys to Men, all those kind of Blackstreet, As Yet, who are not as well known, but that was one of my favorite groups growing up. And actually, stylistically, there was a singer called Mark Nelson in there. I used to copy a lot of the way that he used to sing. So, very interesting in terms of the way it developed me as a singer and all my influences. So, he had a big part on that. My sister's ex-partner.
That's cool, though.
Yeah, man.
And producers often have like such a big record collections because they've got to take influences from so many different things.
Of course.
And if they've got to be diverse and be able to write different styles of music, they're often got like... my parents always had very good music taste. Lots of UB40, lots of Jimi Hendrix. They were very into like Madness. People with saxophone players they really liked.
Yeah.
So that kind of definitely formed what I was into.
Okay.
And they always said Max on sax from like a very young age.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they always said that from when I was like 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what were any of them... Because I imagine you weren't playing saxophone.
No, they just said it, and it just became a thing that just stuck.
Really?
Yeah, from like the age of like probably like 4 or 5.
No.
Yeah.
Max on
sax.
And then when did you start playing saxophone then?
I was about 11. So I did clarinet first because if you're not like a huge child with like big hands, you can't play saxophone from a young age. So I started playing clarinet for a bit. Didn't really like love it, and then started playing saxophone. And I think it always depends on what kind of teacher you have to begin with.
Right.
Like I didn't have a teacher that I loved until I was like probably 15, 16.
Interesting.
And I started getting a teacher that I absolutely was obsessed with in terms of like the music that they would bring in, and then they would also play in big bands. So big bands was like the first thing that I fully got into.
Yeah, of course.
And then you kind of played with other people, and then you realise you could like learn other genres of music, like ska and all these different types.
Wicked.
And I just think it just takes that one kind of person just to be like, maybe you should do it like this, or have you tried doing it like this? Someone who's, like you said, like producer friend, like someone just to give you that kind of inspiration, a bit of a nudge, just to be like, try this.
Yeah, especially if there's some kind of professional setting that they're involved in.
Yeah.
That was the thing for me. Like, I knew that he had, produced.
Well, you see a trajectory, right?
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Exactly that. It's like,
two in the top 10. That must be like
I'm sure it was. I'm sure New Flow. I mean, I can check it out afterwards. I'm sure New Flow was. It was definitely a hit, certainly in the UK. So, it was just. I mean, it feels like yesterday. I mean, we're talking like 30 years ago, but it's incredible.
Give it away your age then, Mike.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's true. I'm not shy. It's fine.
It was 10 years ago.
Exactly that.
Yeah, I think those things are so important though, finding those people who can kind of push you and give you those motivations.
Yeah, I think so. And I think It's weird as well because I never really, especially coming. I mean, my mum was a nurse and my dad was an accountant. So in terms of, you know, doing something in the creative space professionally, it was never something that I thought of.
Right.
I never, and to be honest, I say that even now, I still work a 9 to 5 and you know, do my music, right? But
that's amazing that you can do that.
Yeah. I've never really thought, certainly growing up, that I could go and have a professional career doing something that I just enjoy as a hobby. I've never really thought that. So it has been super interesting, and just the way that it has developed, and I guess the doors that are kind of shown to you throughout your life kind of dictate that or whatever, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah.
What did you do at uni then? Did you do anything?
So, funny. So I actually did computing with multimedia.
Right.
So yeah, another one of my hobbies. I'm a bit of a gamer. Not as much anymore. Don't have too much time with kids. But I did computing with multimedia. So that involved a bit of like kind of Java script and all that kind of stuff, writing code for gaming, which kind of has a little bit of, I guess, an impact on my full-time job that I have now.
Right.
But that was obviously something that was a massive hobby to me. I didn't end up finishing my uni course actually because I was in a group. I was in a music group, and so I ended up stopping uni to continue with that because there was, you know, kind of talk of trying to get signed, all that kind of thing. Yeah. So very interestingly, uni was I wasn't as dedicated, to be honest. I was kind of doing too much music. The kind of fun side of it, the kind of gaming side. Getting creative in terms of different types of games. That was something that I loved, but the kind of JavaScript side, I just wasn't too into that, man. That was a lot of work, you can imagine. Like,
what uni was that at?
That was University of Greenwich.
Oh, really?
Yeah, University of Greenwich.
When were you
Yeah,
there?
I was there, so it must have been early 2000s, it must have been around about 2002, 2003, something
crazy.
like that.
Because I was at Trinity at like probably from 2006.
Yeah.
Which is next door to each other.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Small world, man.
It is, yeah.
Because we used to have parties and stuff with some of the University of Greenwich students.
Right. Yeah. Nice.
And then we used to go to Goldsmiths because that was like
New Cross.
Trinity didn't really have like a great
Goldsmiths was cool. I remember
went
that.
there quite a lot for that in the nights.
Yeah.
DJs and stuff.
Yeah, that was what. Do you know what? Because I went to school in South East London, and a lot of the people that came to our sixth form,
It's Thomas Tallis?
Yeah, I went to Thomas Tallis. Yeah, South East London. So, So, a lot of people that went to Goldsmiths, like socially or whatever, they joined our sixth form or whatever. Right. So a lot of people that, and we all obviously end up mixing in sixth form and going to Goldsmiths for a lot of social nights. So that was cool.
I love that area of the world as well.
Yeah,
I like South East London. I lived there for like 6-7 years.
Right.
Lived in Greenwich for a bit. Lived in Blackheath. Lived kind of all over that area.
Nice.
It's got a place in my heart, definitely.
Yeah, man, South East London, because I'm from Woolwich. I'm from Plumstead, Woolwich. So,
Usually Shooters Hill Road for a bit.
Live
up that kind of way.
Interesting, yeah. So where we first lived in Plumstead, it was just kind of behind Shooters Hill.
Nice.
One of my best friends in secondary school lived at the top of Shooters Hill, right near the water tower. So we were there.
Yeah.
And funny enough, his mum used to pick us up and take us to school every morning.
Nice.
So I'm super familiar with that area.
Thomas Tallis has got a great music department now.
Yes,
well. A lot about that music department.
Of course, yeah. But he was
strong.
a musician, Thomas Tallis. The actual, like back in the 17th century, whoever it was. He was a musician.
So the school that I worked at, John Roan, he was like a philanthropist, and he was very into like giving everyone the same kind of opportunities. So what he'd do is offer free music lessons.
Right.
So he wants everyone from every walk of life basically to be able to have the opportunity to have music lessons.
Interesting.
So they used
I didn't
to
know
pay
that.
like something ridiculous, like 60-70 grand a year.
Wow.
The kind of trusted.
Yeah.
To offer everyone free music lessons.
Amazing. Yeah, John Roan, that's because, I mean, again, that's South East London, so I'm familiar with John Roan, and I know a lot of people that went to that school.
Yeah.
But I did not know that. So that is something that I've
And they still do it now.
Wow.
Even though it's become an academy, they still kind of like push that as a thing.
Impressive.
And give everyone the opportunity to kind of learn.
That's what it's about.
It's great.
Yeah, that's what it's about, man.
Yeah, you need those little pockets. Pockets 100%. Of kind of places to learn.
Yeah, access, man. That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, to be fair, teaching's come up quite a lot and how people get into music. That's come up a few times on the podcast. And I hope to get back into it. Like I obviously, I did about 15 years of teaching at John Roan.
Right.
And then kind of got to a point where I was like, this isn't really working for me anymore.
Yeah, right,
and
right.
then obviously when we moved to Worthing, it was like, I can't really kind of think about the commute, and I don't really think that will work going all the way in. So I'm going to take a bit of a time off.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me
asking, when you were teaching at John Roan, was it the school that was paying for the lessons for the children?
Yeah.
Nice. I know, because
So
I was just thinking
that.
about the whole teaching
which is
thing.
good and bad, because
Right.
I think there's something to be said for a parent paying for a lesson.
Right.
Because it means that they're more on the teachers.
I see.
And it
I
means
see.
they kind of ask more about it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think sometimes the lessons will kind of go under the radar.
Yeah, so that, I mean, I can definitely imagine
Having that financial obligation, I think, is sometimes like a positive thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of like my gym, but whether I actually go or not is a different question.
I'd hope to get back into teaching, man, because I want to. I love the idea of being that kind of like character for someone to get into music.
Yeah.
What you were talking about earlier, having someone who's inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'd like to do that again, but I don't know if it'll be in a school setting. I think it'll be more like my own kind of thing.
Right.
Almost like a school that you set up yourself, or a kind of like a organisation that you set up yourself.
That'd be amazing.
So I don't think I want to have too many restrictions.
Right, I'm with you.
Like, I want to be able to do the rules myself.
Yeah,
You know what I
man.
mean?
Time, all
And
this
then-
kind of you don't want any restrictions, man. That does make sense.
And also curriculum. I don't really want to be
So-
abiding by that.
I
Which
see.
is pretty old school.
So what was it? Were they restrictive in terms of the types of music you could do?
Yeah, and I think if you go into the grading system, like obviously a lot of it's kind of classical based, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of it, like there's jazz in there, and it's not
Right.
really jazz. It's kind of like someone's perception of what jazz is.
see.
And I think
see.
that just got to the point where I was like, and also I think for me, like playing music should be like the stuff that I loved when I was there was doing on the ensembles.
Right.
So doing like, we got Trinity to come in and do masterclasses with the students.
Wow.
So they got like people because I know a couple of the teachers there still.
Yeah.
So they came in and did like a big band workshop with
Lovely.
the kids. That was amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
So that's something I would probably be more into, I think.
Yeah,
Going forward.
that would be
More
wicked.
like a group thing.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And it wouldn't have to be just teenagers, it would be kind of like all ages.
Yeah, proper. Man,
So that's
go
something
for
I'm
it, man.
thinking about.
That'll be serious.
Yeah.
Love it.
But yeah, I think, like I said, having that kind of person is very important. And then from there, so you went to school in kind of Thomas Towers, you sixth form there as well. And you're doing
Yep.
music throughout there. You're having lessons at school?
So I didn't have any lessons. I've never done. To be honest, I've never really had a singing lesson. To be honest,
More of an autodidact.
Yeah,
Teaching yourself.
That's it. You know, I've never really. I think I've like understood some different and I probably should. To be honest, I probably should have a kind of just to understand what I'm kind of
Right.
doing. A bit more, and probably protect my voice a little bit more as well. But I've never had any kind of lessons, and even in Thomas Tallis, I actually played drums.
Okay.
I played drums in primary school, and first going into Thomas Tallis, I played drums in the early years. I mean, when it came to reading music, like reading drums, I was like not interested.
Yeah.
So I stopped, and I obviously took it that probably coincided with me doing. Singing a little bit more, just getting into,
They're trying to push just the reading part.
Yeah, it was just, I was taking lessons or whatever, and which is obviously, super important if you want to do anything professionally now, and you want to do something that's based off of reading. But it just was something that didn't feel right to me.
Right.
A lot of the stuff I'd done was all based on feel. And more primary school, it's very simple. Play this groove and kind of copy, and it was all to do with counting and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't necessarily to do with any reading. So it was completely alien to me to think that I knew that, horn players, guitar, like all
Keys
other
players
instruments,
a lot.
exactly, would be reading music. But I
Yeah.
thought the drummers never had to do that.
Yeah.
So rude awakening. And then, I just lost interest. I mean, I've always still been interested in kind of rhythmically, drumming patterns or whatever. But in terms of playing professionally, it was all put to bed then.
So you sound more like a kinesthetic person, because
There
you
you
said that
go.
about your degree as well. When it got
Yeah.
a bit too technical and a bit too
Yeah.
you're like, nah, man.
Yeah, I'm a free spirit, man. I
Yeah,
need to
and
be.
if it doesn't feel right, I think you've got to trust that. You've got to understand that feeling, and
Yeah.
kind of follow it.
Yeah, and you know, I think that
My wife's like that. She's incredibly kinesthetic.
yeah,
When
man,
it gets
and you know
too,
what it
like,
is. I think
clinical. It's
yeah,
like, nah.
it does take away the joy of it for me. Like I think creatively, I definitely love the idea of just being able to kind of move or think in any direction.
Yeah.
And when it becomes too, I don't know, linear, and you're looking at this is the way to do this, or these are the certain rules that you need to follow, and like what you said about, you know, in when you're teaching, and then they have to do this particular, you know, idea of jazz because this is what the curriculum says. Like I'm like, who says that's right? You know, so all the rules and regulations around anything is not something that I'm particularly fond of in the creative space. Obviously, we needed to, you know, go to school, kids, all that kind of stuff. You know, but
Go to school to find out what you love.
Yeah,
find out that flow.
Yeah, man. I'm just like, in terms of anything where you need to get your creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
There are no rules.
No.
Yeah.
And I think also, you got to think who were the people creating those rules? Who were the people creating those curriculums? Like, most of the time, I'd guarantee they're not gigging musicians.
Yeah.
Or people who have kind of been in the industry and met 100%. A lot of different people in the industry.
100%. And the fear, you know, without, you know, speaking, you know, ignorantly, maybe, I don't know. But the fear is that it wouldn't surprise me if those people that were setting those rules were doing it for some kind of political, financial gain, you know? So,
yeah, definitely.
And the real talent, the people that actually influence how the movement goes, they probably didn't have a say. So, you know, I don't know.
And Jesse was saying, like, because he did drums as well,
right.
Jesse Appiah on the other podcast, and he said that he was doing a lot of learning, like, in church.
Right, okay.
So he was kind of, like, playing there, and that is obviously nothing really about reading music.
Right.
Like, it's very rarely about that. It's more about the kind of feel and just learning lots of tunes by ear.
Yeah.
And really, like, I think the only thing I always say to my students was reading music just improves the speed that you can do stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not completely, unless you're going to go into like a pit band and do a West End show, it's not fully necessary. Like, if you can do it, it's like a cool advantage.
Yeah.
But it's not fully necessary. Like, a lot of people do it and professionals and can't read music.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
it's
it
interesting.
does happen. Like,
it's interesting.
I think it's better to have a good sound, have better feel, and be like a cooler person, and be like someone you can hang out with.
It
there are a lot of people there that do it and are very successful that can't read music.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting what you say about, like, you know, growing up in church and never having to do that, because even culturally now, you know, I know so many great musicians, some who, you know, grew up reading music, some who never.
Yeah.
And I think it just depends on the type of gig that you're going to be doing, right? Where do you need to be able to consider that?
Yeah.
Or is it something where both sides of the coin are kind of considered, where actually someone with great feel would be great for that part, but actually when you need to segue into a new tune, you're going to need to actually know what it is.
Use your ears and be able to relax.
Exactly. So it's an odd one.
I think it's good to be able to do all of it.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah.
That's what I say to people. Try and be like a well-rounded musician.
I agree.
Try and do a little bit of everything.
That makes sense.
Because it's hard, man. Reading music is hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like
Well, I wouldn't know, because I I decided to politely decline, you know.
Well, like that, you've seen a pattern though. You can definitely see a pattern from that. If you know what does and doesn't work for you. Those little kind of like the details and the intricacies of those things, it starts to get a bit like, nah, I'm all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely, and it's weird though, because I do have quite an analytical mind, and I am quite detailed in other things. So like, you know, bringing it back to my 9 to 5, obviously I work with a lot of data, right? So I actually do, my job title is CRM and Business Intelligence Manager. So analytics, it's very much to the rule. You can't. It's not subjective. This is what the figures are.
Right.
And you know, it is facts and figures. So that is very much a linear thing where I'm looking at fact. This is objective. This is what that fact is. Whilst creatively, I'm quite free flowing.
Okay.
So, but I think it complements. You know, I can't, work a 9 to 5 and have that mindset and then do that on the weekend, if you see what I mean. So I think it complements one another quite well. So
be able to do both those things.
Yeah, and I've always worked my 9 to 5, certainly when I've had my professional music career. So I think the kind of difference in terms of the way that my mind needs to be, as I said, works for me. Like doing the music on the weekends, I do feel free. Obviously, you need to learn songs and, learn different, arrangements and stuff. But really, that's all fun. That's all fun stuff, right? So, yeah, I've never really thought about it that way, but it probably is the fact that they do differ so much. That's probably something that works for me.
You put different hats on for different things as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah,
because music's a lot about that as well, isn't it? Like kind of acting in certain ways for certain gigs.
Yeah,
having to be. And I think a lot of musicians would probably benefit from being almost to be able to think in that kind of business mindset. Because there's so many musicians where they think, if I just practice and just think, like in this day and age, you need to be able to do so many different things.
100%.
Like so many different things. There's obviously the rise of social media, video editing.
Of course.
And obviously to keep things cost effective.
Yeah.
Like being able to do all those different things, massively puts you at an advantage.
Most definitely.
And I think some musicians need to kind of take that musician hat off sometimes, put it down, and then be like, right, business.
Yeah, and it's hard as well, I guess, for some people, because a lot of people have never really had to think about it. You think, I've worked so hard on my talent, this should get me booked. Right, quite rightfully, fair enough. Someone's dedicated themselves to their craft or whatever. But where the landscape is changing, man, you just have to move with the times, socials and stuff. I mean, I'm terrible for socials, like posting. A lot of the times
Do you like doing socials?
I like giving... So I do videography as well. I do a lot of video, a lot of editing. And my problem is that I want everything to be perfect before I would show it to the world. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people have that problem. But I think typically in our industry, people may be a bit funny about maybe the way they sound or the way they, look. I'm not too sure. But my thing has always been more so from the actual production value. So is that particular framing correct? That's my problem. And I don't spend as much time dedicating myself to, I guess, the production side of things in order for it to just happen really quickly. Right. So that stops me doing a lot of social media posts, if that all makes sense. Like, I would be happy to just kind of stick a camera on, stick my microphone on and do some singing. And I probably should do that a lot more. But the production value, how professional does that video look, is something that has always made me stop. But then the other side of it is I look at it and think, do you even need to do that? Probably not. But it's just a thing for me. I would want it to look prim and proper way. Even if you're looking at my grid, you'd see the consistency between every single reel cover. Yeah. Like, it would have to have that consistency just because of the way that I like to present things or whatever, professionally. So it's been a hindrance, and it's something that certainly for this year I said to myself, I'm going to really try and focus on just developing my social media presence, man, because it's nowhere near good enough. Yeah,
I feel the same as well.
Right.
I feel like...
But I think you do quite well now on socials. You post up, I do see, content from you.
I think it's just maybe the inner dialogue while it's going on that I would like to work on a bit more, and sometimes just be like, just a bit more free with it and less kind of like, people are going to find this annoying. That's what's kind of going through my mind.
I see.
And I think just be a bit more like... I think for me, one thing that helps is the scheduling.
Right.
Like scheduling it and then not having to think.
Yeah, I'm with
you. Like I need to get more into the frame of mind of like posting it and then just like ghosting it and not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like I think that's something I'm definitely going to work on.
It's hard though, because I think that probably comes from experience of doing it and experience of knowing that this is being received well from a enough of an audience, right? To know that you can just leave that and settle with it.
Yeah.
So, I think you'd have a little bit of experience with that, with the fact that you've posted stuff before. I've never really posted, I can't remember one. I mean, probably the post that we put up the other day. Literally, we were in Marbella, and we did a short couple of videos, and you just editing on the fly, put a little caption up on that, and that's super cool.
On a gig with Club Live,
which was
venue.
wicked. Yeah, so nice. And we just planned that literally just before sound check. So
let's do it.
Yeah, man, and that's probably the most professional thing I've done on my grid.
Right.
Which is crazy when you think that we just decided to do that whilst we were in sound check. So
sometimes they can be the best videos though.
I agree, totally.
Just being that from a feel thing, just being like this will be really cool.
Totally, because less pressure. You're not thinking about the performance so much. It's just about, let's just do this song.
And there's no mic. You were kind of I was just playing quiet.
Yeah.
And then you were just kind of singing.
Yeah.
Like if I'd blasted it, you'd be like, okay, you can't hear anything but sax now.
Very true. Very true. So, I do hope to do more things like that.
Yeah.
Pick up the camera.
Well, I mean, Club Live's busy. There's going to be loads of moments and times when we can do that again.
That's very true. That is very true.
I always thought about bringing this stuff along as well.
That'd be wicked.
Because you could do something in any of those settings.
Yeah.
And it's not much to put in a suitcase.
Do you know what? That would be a really good idea.
And then you could get some live clips.
Yeah.
Do some live little bits.
Because it's quite interesting actually. People don't recognise, especially clients, they don't recognise how long the day is, right?
No.
It's a long, long day. The travel, the kind of downtime, green room, all that kind of stuff before sound check, more so than often. If we start a gig,
it's not a sound check, is it? It's just rehearsal.
Yeah,
it's like literally comes to 2.5 hour rehearsal.
Yeah.
Depending on the band or depending on the setting.
That's very true. So I think you should. Bring this out.
That would be cool.
That would be wicked. Yeah,
because then you can get that kind of because you could easily do that, and it's still. Could you do that and it still look kind of natural? Because you're kind of like quite you move quite a lot with your hands and the way you entertain. I don't know if you could do that with this. You could potentially.
I think
it would be a hindrance.
I think it'd be difficult to do it, obviously during performance. But I do think though, what could be really cool.
You get a little clip on mic. That might work better.
That'll be interesting.
That'll be better.
Yeah. Or even if you had.
Thing.
Even if you were to consider doing some stuff in the green room, right? We come off stage, and even if it's like a kind of post set kind of a bit of content where you're kind of talking about I think that would be really nice. Really cool, and then you could just have a kind of content creator getting the stuff on the gig so you can go 100%. Between the different bits.
Well, that content's gone up to another level now. They've got forums and stuff.
Which has been great. It's been great, I was slapped on the wrist from Dan and Chloe, the guys who run Club Live in terms of because I to be honest, I was terrible. What was happening is Flo would go around and be filming, and I would be like, so Flo would be coming in from my left hand side, and I just immediately shot off to the right. So it's very difficult to actually get me. So I've been
completely unintentional.
Obviously. Yeah. So now I'm thinking a bit more about that. But no, honestly, those guys are great. I've absolutely loved joining the band. I guess on a full-time basis now. Yeah, which was quite nice to do. So
just amazing. They've come up a lot on this podcast as well. On these podcasts as well, just being the best bunch of people.
Yeah, great.
The boosters.
Great.
The boosters.
Absolutely.
They're all boosters, man.
Fantastic, man. So many talented musicians. I think, I'm trying to think of the first time I think it was 2020, maybe 2020, 2021, the first gig that I did with Club Live. And it was great.
Four Seasons, Hampshire. Was it one?
No. My first
around
gig
that time,
was...
Right? Like just post-COVID?
No, it might have been. It was a marquee gig.
Okay.
I think Four Seasons was one of my second.
Yeah.
Actually, no, because I think my second.
When stuff just reopened, right?
Yeah, because I remember Grace was on that one on
the
Four Seasons one. I think that's the first time I met Grace.
Yeah.
But that was like my
Shout out to Grace Walker, absolute legend. Man. She's gonna be on the podcast as well.
Yeah,
she's
super talent, super talent. One of my favourite female voices.
She had a lot of good music growing up as well. Her dad was obsessed with record players.
Amazing.
Always had amazing songs.
Amazing. Well, you could tell. Yeah, she's super talented, man. But I'm that was my second or third Club Live, and then I had one or two before. But like you said, man, everyone just super talented, and then it's definitely a family 100%. Unit, man. So
boosting everyone up.
Yeah, That's exactly it. That's what it's about, man. I've always felt super loved, and that's it for me. Like doing a gig and the people just being super supportive and
because I think we went to Marbella, the gig was what 6-7 hours, and then the rest of the time you're just hanging for like 3 days. So that hang has got to be good, and you've got to be able to feel comfortable, and that will make a big difference to the gig. Of course, to how well the kind of gig goes. Yeah,
it's super important, man. It's like we were saying earlier, like I think we're quite fortunate enough to be selective in terms of who we do gigs for. You know, which bands we want to spend our time with, and that's always the thing I'm thinking about. Like,
100%.
You know, who are the people in the band? Even more so than the talent or whatever. Right? It's just like, who are the people in the band? What are they about? Are they cool? Yeah, cool. Okay, I'll do it. You know.
I had one the other day where they wouldn't tell me. I asked, and I was like, "Who's in the band?" They're like, "I can't tell you that." I'm like,
"Really?
Sorry, I'm not gonna do it."
Yeah. See ya. Yeah.
Just like, why? Why are you being cagey about that?
That is odd.
It's gonna make a difference to me.
100%.
And I don't really want to do it. If I don't like, it will be specific to the people who are doing
100%. There's no
so
doubt
many
about
different factors of that.
Yeah, man. Like
I was
there may
like,
be
okay,
people,
no worries then.
Yeah. I think that's a key question. If you know, where is it? Fee, who's on it?
Yeah.
They're my three things.
100%. 100%.
Just being totally honest, and then I'll decide whether we continue the conversation or not. So
I think it's taken me a bit of time to like, because it's obviously, it feels quite nice to be asked for certain gigs, and I think it's taken me a while to be like, get over that initial excitement emotionally when someone asks you for something, and also from a money perspective. Like being a dad and stuff, I feel like sometimes I have to like, look, just put the phone down for a second, walk away, do something else, come back to it, and then once the emotions have settled, and then think to you in your head like, do you want to do this? When all those things have settled down and taken a moment, you think, do you really want to do this? Like time away, you know, from your setting, from your house, especially if it's an abroad gig. Like, I've got this festival that I do every year that's just been this weekend. It was in Richmond, and it's like a fitness festival, and it's with like amazing DJs.
Right.
And they have these kind of thousands of people with a stage. And the same day, I got asked to do lots of like abroad weddings.
Right. Okay.
And initially, when you hear it, you're like, oh, that would be really cool to go and do that. But then as soon as you let those emotions die, and then you think like, no, what will I be missing out on? Doing an actual festival with some of my favourite DJs. With all these people watching, and there's a chance to get more content.
Of course.
And then as soon as you let that die down, and then you think about it afterwards, you're like, what was I even thinking?
Yeah, what a terrible idea that would have been.
I would have been there just
away
like,
from the family. Look, abroad
whereas
gigs,
I could have left mine at like, 5 p.m. I'll be home by... I was home by like midnight. And you got, this amazing feeling of doing whatever music I wanted on stage with these incredible DJs.
Yeah, man. That does play a part. Like, especially now, both of us are lucky enough to have children, have partners, have that family set up where, to be honest, that's the priority. That's really why you're doing a lot of this professionally, or continuing to do it professionally.
100%.
Maybe earlier in the, when we first started out, it was a lot to do with ourselves, expressing ourselves, and getting to a professional setting with those skills. But certainly now, everything that comes into my account, I'm sitting there thinking, what does that mean for me and my family? Right. So yeah,
you've done the work, man. I think it's a fortunate place to be in, that you can ask those things, and you can ask yourself those questions, but you've done the work.
100%, bro. 100%.
Done the work and done the hours and the time.
That's it, the slog. Right, so...
Done those gigs where you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Get me the fuck off stage. I'm going home.
See ya.
That is exactly
How have you found then, being a dad and juggling with the 9 to 5 and with the musical stuff? How have you found that?
That's a great question. And, I always look at my situation as quite unique, right? Because
there's not many people who have both those things.
even that, the fact that there's not many professional musicians that work a 9 to 5, that in itself is a rarity. But my case is particularly unique because what happened is COVID came in 2020. I've always worked a 9 to 5 since I've been with my wife. I've worked a 9 to 5 as well as doing gigs. COVID hits, and all of a sudden, both of us quite fortunate where we both worked 9 to 5, but we were both able to work from home. So no furlough, nothing like that. My full-time pay was the same being at home.
Wow.
So I just worked from my bedroom sometimes or whatever since 2020. We then had our first child in 2022. So I'd been used to working from home for a long time. And what that meant was the times when, if you can imagine my relationship dynamic before, Monday to Friday, I was getting on a train to go into central London. So between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m,
wow,
I wasn't seeing my wife, right?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, we're at home 24/7 together. 2020 up to 2022, have Cleo, my first child, and still, although everything's back open in 2022, I'm still working from home because offices were like, okay, if we can do this, people from working from home, you don't really need to come in. So that meant that I was able to be quite present for my family working from home. Okay, I'd go in like 1-2 days a week, but I was still able to be there to see all the things that I guess a lot of dads sometimes miss. Right, right. So I could see that progression on a daily basis, not where I was just like, going out to work and then coming back. So I do think, and then obviously on the weekend when I'm gigging and all that kind of thing, that was the same as before. So I do think my situation is quite unique, and I'm quite lucky that lockdown came. Quite fortunately, nobody kind of around my immediate circle caught anything serious from COVID. So I actually took it as a bit of a blessing just to kind of slow down and kind of reflect on life. So
when in life are we going to get that time? It's like such a reset.
I miss a bit of it, man. Like obviously not, notwithstanding that a lot of people, obviously lost their lives or whatever, without even getting too much into the whole kind of political side of, we're not going to go there, right? But I definitely found it a very refreshing time for my own life, my own family dynamic. Lace and I used to spend a lot of time just going on walks.
Oh, man.
It was just wonderful. Yeah. And I'm sure some people where...
So was she... When was your first child? What time? Was it in 2020?
2022. So although what had happened is that we'd both kind of we were now working from home. Yeah. So we'd go in the office 1 or 2 days a week, but that's, you just kind of tie that into the same schedule.
It's such a blessing to have that, though.
It was, honestly. It was.
Especially for people with full-time jobs.
Exactly. And even when you consider the whole furlough situation, right? A lot of the country were furloughed. So, but we weren't. Neither of us were. We were both had our full-time pay working from home. Right. So obviously you can imagine our financial situation, got the Peloton bike, whatever. I had loads of cash. Didn't have to pay for like travel going into London.
Going out and doing anything.
That's exactly. Although I wasn't gigging as much, which is usually my kind of disposable income, I still was saving a lot of money just being at home. And it's funny, I was quite fortunate where I did, I don't know if you remember the Lifebuoy, it was like a hand gel. Okay. But that was an advert that came on during lockdown. And I did the vocals for it. Oh, nice. Yeah, so that was like TV, radio, YouTube, like it was everywhere. And there were so many different sessions I did. So that was great for me finding that kind of, I guess, I mean, it wasn't like a gig fee that we'd have now, but I did loads of sessions, working from home, got my microphone set up, and I just did loads of sessions for those guys. And that was brilliant. Yeah, that was brilliant during lockdown, man. So I've been quite fortunate, man.
That's great.
Been quite fortunate, yeah.
So you're going 1 or 2 days a week now, then you go into...
That's correct.
Into town.
Yeah, 1 or 2 days a week going into town now.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's comfortable. I love it. And what's weird is that I can't believe that I used to spend so much money from a Monday to... Because even now, I'm cussing. Every single time I've got to pay to go into Central London, I'm like,
it's not cheap either.
It's not cheap at all, right? It's like £30-40 return per day.
Fuck yeah, because if you go those times are the bits that kill you.
Brother, honestly, paying $3,500 per year to track, I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's mental.
It could just never happen. Never happen now. So, if my office told me to come in full time again, I'd just look for another job. Right. Because quite fortunately, a lot of people have now the hybrid solution where you can either work from home remotely, you can work remotely, Monday through to Friday, or at the very least, it would just be a hybrid solution where you have to just go in 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, I got a few friends who work 9 to 5s, who work in like banks, or like a couple of mates who work in recruitment and stuff.
Right.
And yeah, being able to like just have that time with their little ones, go in 1 or 2 days a week.
It's honestly, it's the best.
Change everything, really.
Yeah, definitely. I just can't imagine what it would be like not waking up most more. They're still sleeping at typically the times I go into the office. So I can't imagine what that would be like every single day, and only waking up on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning.
And you're probably knackered then anyway.
From a gig, exactly, right? Yeah. So, as I said, my situation now is very fortunate. I'm always counting my blessings because I've been very lucky, very lucky. So it's quite a unique situation.
That's great.
I'd say, yeah.
I think it's important to be grateful for all these things, and hearing like people also grateful for health as well, man. Being able to do that, we can just do this and do those kind of long gigs and not feel too kind of like dead afterwards. And the fact that we're still kind of fit and strong, and being able to do those kind of longer gigs and come out of them afterwards and be like, right, I can do this.
Most definitely. And you know what, it's funny you say that, because my eldest daughter, so she has cerebral palsy,
right,
and that's obviously been a massive challenge. Like, she's going to be 3 in July, but very, very difficult challenge in terms of since she's been born, really. She was initially on an NG tube, so for the first 6 months she wasn't feeding because she couldn't swallow, so we had to feed her through a tube. And just recognizing the privileges I have of just getting up and being able to put food in my mouth, or even because she's not walking yet. Hopefully she does, but just all the privileges, the physical, the kind of cognitively, all those privileges that we have, and you think it's just a given. It's definitely helped me to be even more reflective than I was before having kids, because, as I said now, man, I just count all of my blessings, man. The fact that I was able to even just drive here, make it here without crash, all that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff's always in my head because of the experiences that we've had with our first child. Yeah,
there's so many things that we take for granted,
100%.
Especially what we do. Going
100%.
to go around the world and play at these incredible...
Travel. This is it, bro. See a different country. We were in Spain the other week. Some people just can't even, so...
We tell them, say, I'll go on another flight.
Yeah, God.
When I hear musicians moan about it, I'm just like, shut the fuck
up. Man. Get to see the world. Get to go get paid and go see the world. Yeah, it's crazy.
Probably get fed great food.
Yeah, exactly. I'll have that extra bit on the barbecue. Why not? Yeah, of course. It's lovely.
I was thinking earlier about actually when we went for a meal.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to sit by you next time as well, because you were like... I could see your kind of brain working, thinking like, how can I get the most?
Which thigh is the biggest?
What's the weight on this steak? Come on. My brain always thinks like that.
Yeah. But it's funny you say that, actually, because
I like food
even the workers out there, even the workers, I like to, I'm a people's person. I like to interact a lot with and I'm intrigued.
People warm to you immediately.
Yeah,
always.
Thank you.
Always.
Thank you, brother. But I often find, especially in kind of catering, and that kind of, especially high-end weddings and all that kind of stuff, the catering staff, I'm always quite intrigued about them as people.
Right.
Because what I often find, and this is probably from my 9 to 5, right? So my 9 to 5, I work for a defence and security think tank, and a lot of the conferences that I've been to, I was often the only black person there.
Right.
And what was quite... I guess sad. I don't know if sad is though, but I was often the only black person there from a, I guess, professional setting or whatever. So from the actual body or organisation that was putting on the event, I was the only black person, whilst the catering staff were all black,
right,
or from a different background or whatever. So what I find quite interesting is that I am always giving extra time to those types of people, whatever the industry. So my conferences, I'll always spend extra time speaking to those people, understand who they are, and just filling them up in terms of an actual conversation rather than can you get me that?
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
and I find that even on overseas gigs, I find myself doing that quite naturally as well. 'Cause
Right.
I don't know if you remember when the guy ended up bringing up loads of, I think it was like lemon Fantas that he ended up bringing round to the band. And because we had a really nice conversation beforehand, but I think I just do that quite naturally.
Right.
I just love to make people feel as comfortable as they possibly can, because it might be uncomfortable for him in that setting where I know there's a rich client and everyone's got money and whatever, but actually they're just human beings,
100%.
right? Yeah, so an interesting one, man.
We all shit. Do you know what I mean? So you got to remember those things. Like, yeah, I think that's important. Making people feel good and making them feel special, making
100.
them feel heard and kind of listened
100%.
to.
Because everyone's got a story, man.
100%.
Everyone's got a story. So,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important. We see a lot of those. We get like a little look into those kind of people's lives, especially kind of those kind of clients, like it's stuff that we would never get a little kind of look into.
Yeah.
Those kind of like the venues and also the places and the food,
Crazy.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think we're so kind of lucky to be able to do that.
We are,
as
man.
well.
We see so much. We see so much different stuff. And you know, it's interesting because what I also find quite fascinating is that when a client because it's often event planners that we would be dealing with, but when a client makes an effort to come and interact with a band, and you see this a lot with Club Live actually, where they're like, actually, they're so grateful for what we did. While sometimes you can see it with these clients where there's such a level of expectancy and kind and used to having things that they want.
100%.
They're not really even
Not
interested in,
No,
right?
Just a bit like that.
Yeah,
Impress
whatever.
me.
Yeah, cool. Nice one, band. But I think it's quite nice with Club Live. There's definitely a personal touch, and you know, credit to the likes of Dan and Chloe, who probably do a lot of that work behind the scenes, you know,
100%.
beforehand and even post event, in terms of actually having that, you know, personal relationship with the clients, because you definitely feel that at the gigs where we finish and people actually come in and they're super grateful and speak highly of us.
We'll feel like they can come and chat to us.
100%.
There's
yeah.
not this kind of like, we are the entertainers, that kind of wall up. Like, fuck that. Let's just come in, have a chat with us.
Yeah.
We're very open people, we're all very nice.
That's exactly it.
And like you said, we try to make people feel comfortable and make people feel kind of special.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter who you are, like, you know, why you're there. Like, we want you to feel kind of comfortable and happy. And I think that's why that band is full of such good entertainers as well, because those people are like confident. They're not afraid of like strangers. They're not afraid of like crowds. I think that makes a huge difference to the way people perform and the way that, you know, energy on stage between the performance. That can make like a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, you know, there are no divas with the singers. And the thing is, there are loads of singers, right? Club Live is usually 6 singers. So typically you'd expect at least 1 or 2, but you don't find that at all. I've never felt uneasy with any of the all the musicians, right? No one has kind of given that sense of, I'm here. No. And it is a bit of a, it's
about me.
Yeah, it's never that. It's never ever that. So
I think everyone in it works so hard as well. Like, there's so many new tunes coming in, and the repertoire is so large that often I found that when people are working that hard, there's less kind of ego involved. I think it's when people are kind of just like chancing it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And are a bit like, nah. I think that's when people get a bit arrogant.
Yeah, I'm totally with you.
Almost like that owed it. It's like, nah.
Yeah.
Everyone here is working their ass off.
That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah, and that's actually a really good point, because that's often when you would see that kind of thing. Oh, my talent is enough. I sound this great, so I'm just going to come and you'd work around me.
But maybe it's a thing
you don't see that. At Club
and
Live,
deep down, is it actually you're a little bit insecure about the lack of work you've done?
Probably.
Is that maybe like a bravado? You're thinking like, oh fuck, these people have all worked really hard, and I've not. Right, I need to up my game in terms of being a bit cocky. Yeah,
do you know, in a quiet room, I'm sure that would be part of the thinking, man, because you know the talents. I mean, there's loads of talented musicians, right? Yeah. Right. The fact that you even are considered.
Everyone can play. Everyone can sing.
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly it. 100%. So it would definitely be a thing of, you're thinking that your talent's gonna do that, kind of, that you're gonna make up for it, and that's probably why you lean on the idea that you're not gonna learn those songs, or you're not gonna But yeah, I think
Going back to what you were saying earlier, why do you think that you were? Why do you think the kind of waiting staff were predominantly black, and why do you think that you were the only black guy from that perspective? I know it's obviously a very intricate question with probably
I'm happy
with lots of different answers.
Yeah, and really, I think first and foremost, it depends on the industry that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because there will be similarities even in the kind of event space that we do, right?
Yeah.
But if I speak first and foremost about my 9 to 5 in the defense and security sector, so if you think about just normal, I guess, British ideals, right? Around defense and security. It's all about kind of nationalism. You're fighting for your country. That's literally what you're doing. You're fighting for your country, right? So I guess tied to that, there's going to be quite naturally a lean towards what the idea of a British person should be like.
Okay.
Right? Which is probably going to be a white male. I don't know, right? I'm not saying that any of these things are how it should be. This is what probably...
What it is, yeah.
Yeah, just what it is, right? So in the defense and security sector, if you're thinking about all these large defense companies and, I guess, military, and I know there's a lot of work that's done in the military to kind of diversify its audience or certainly who makes up that British military. But just quite naturally, over the years, I think that it's just been a space that's been dominated by a particular race and a particular gender. Yeah. And that's just what it is, right? So that's an easy one to see. I think within the musical space or the event space that we do, or certainly where I've met you on, I think that is that's a tricky one. We do a lot of high-end events. Yeah. And I think quite naturally... okay. I think that we do a lot of Jewish events, right? I think that naturally, again, within that space, you just don't find many black people. That's just, you just don't, right? Yeah. And it's not to say you never see any or whatever, but without going too much into the kind of political side of things, I just think quite naturally, and I want to make sure I don't say anything out of turn, but I think that certainly my observations of the Jewish community is it's very much been very close-knit, you know, a positive thing. It's very much a close-knit community. Yeah. And within that, what that would mean, I guess, is that it'll be predominantly Jewish people who are your friends, who are your family. Yeah. And so that would probably lend to the reason as to why you don't see many, I guess, guests or actual clients that are over a particular ethnicity or even from a particular social group, right? Just forget race, even just class or whatever. And then with guests, I guess, I mean, yeah, that would just go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel. Do I feel out of place? That's the question that I'm just asking myself. I don't really, because I'm kind of hired as entertainment, right? And there is probably a big question around that, but I don't feel that. I don't feel that, you know, they wouldn't book me if I wasn't black or if I wasn't Jewish. I don't think it's set on that. Yeah. Is that ignorant? I mean, to be honest, I've experienced some places where they are looking for a particular look, right. Or even ethnicity. So, but I'm speaking specifically about club live, I guess, right? Yeah.
Not a lot of the a lot of the music we're playing is black music. Yeah, like so many of the hits and so many of the that world came from black music. Yeah, it's a good point. Like a majority of that, the soul, Motown, that kind of sound, even from, if you're going back even further, from the blues kind of sound, and it formed. That's all from black music. 100%, and even popular culture, man. So even forgetting the music, man. It's like a lot of influences, clothing, like
there's a lot of influence from the black community, right? So, as I said, I think with my professional head, I kind of just get in and do the job.
Yeah.
I kind of get in and
But
recognize
you always seem
that,
extremely comfortable in these
right,
situations.
yeah,
as
that's
well,
it. And I'd be lying if I wasn't to say that I'm at my most comfortable doing that, knowing, because I do feel that you have to have a certain level of there's a thing called code switching that
Code switching,
which a lot of black people would be familiar with. Certainly black people in professional setting, where you kind of, it's the way that you would act, the way that you would talk, the way that you would present yourself in a professional environment, and being able to, I guess, be adaptable and being able to show that side of you. That's the whole kind of idea of code switching, in terms of how you may be naturally when you're in your own kind of, I guess, home environment or in and amongst your friends. So I guess it's what's palatable in certain settings, right? And I've just grown up doing that, man. I've worked a 9 to 5, like in the defense and security sector for the best part of 15 years. So I'm used to that. And I do it quite naturally now. So it's not something that I think about, like going and doing these gigs and thinking, okay, I'm going to be worried how I'm perceived, because quite naturally, I
think as soon as you do that, then you kind of don't look as comfortable, and then you'll kind of be thinking like, you're kind of thinking about different things. You're not just thinking about being yourself, and you're kind of
you know, it's unfortunate as well, because it does come from experience, right? Like if you're not used to that setting where you're the only, I guess, black person in the room. Then,
for me, it's very rare that I'm the only white person.
Right.
You know what I mean? As white people, I don't think I've ever experienced that. Where I am the only white person there.
Right.
It's very, very rare. And maybe I have a few times, but again, it will be like more of a rare experience for me to.
And it's an interesting question, actually, because
especially in those kind of environments,
right?
Like in events,
well, this is the thing, right? So it probably goes hand in hand with the privileges that certain communities have, right? So how often would you see, and they are about, right? They are like you look, some of these Nigerian weddings, or you know, where there's a lot of money going around. But how often, and you obviously said it's very rare, but it's how often those, I guess, privileged events take place within those communities, right? And then it goes into a bigger question of access for certain communities, all that kind of thing, right? So, because if there were more of those events taking place, you probably would be booked as a professional saxophonist, right? So, that is a really interesting question, and I think it's probably a whole other podcast by itself.
100%. 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because I had mates growing up where that would happen in Derbyshire, like
right.
a kind of Indian friend where he was kind of talking about it. He said to me, like, you've never been in this situation before where you'll sit in a bar and you'll kind of feel that, because Derby is an interesting place in itself. It's quite like a racially divided place where there's a lot of animosity between different races.
Right, okay.
And he said you'll never feel that kind of feeling, or you'll very rarely kind of feel that feeling of like being that only kind of white person there. Course. Or person of a different colour. Yeah. And I kind of sat there and I was like, wow, that's really, like I've never thought about that before. It's a very interesting point. It
is an interesting point. And you know, I think it's twofold as well, because it's not only just the race, it's what comes with, I think the class thing comes into it, because you could be in a space of less privileged people being, I guess, a white male who could be privileged in, you know, financially, whatever it is, and it would be more comfortable because you have those privileges. So it's almost like a feeling of, okay, well, I'm in this space and it doesn't feel very comfortable or particularly comfortable at all because I'm the only white person here.
Yeah.
But there still may be a feeling of people looking up to you because of just the colour of your skin.
Right.
So I don't know, I don't know if this is a good comparison, but even when royalty goes to a less economically developed country or whatever, and then they're heralded, right? Because it's, you know, the the monarchy are here kind of thing, and it probably goes back to the Commonwealth and all that kind of thing. But
I think people always think they're going to act cool in front of royals, and then there's that weight of just them coming in and being like, hello. And then you go like, oh, fuck, this is the Queen.
Of course. Yeah. But I think if a black person goes into a predominantly white setting, unless they are, you know, film star, music star, something along those lines, then it's going to be rare where they feel like I feel totally at ease, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it kind of is what it is, the unfortunate state of the world today. So
and I think in event space as well, like, I think we're quite lucky that, I don't know, it feels like definitely the bands that I'm in, they feel quite diverse, because obviously that what we'd said earlier about the kind of, a lot of the music is predominantly black. Like a lot of those kind of big hits kind of come from that world anyway. Yeah. And I think in the music space, we're quite lucky for it to be like less of a thing in terms of like bands and.
I think so. Even if not aesthetically, but as people, I totally 100%. Agree. Yeah. I definitely agree.
There's a lot of very interesting people, especially in London and around, and in music, a lot of big characters.
Yes, that's it.
Great people.
Yeah, and they are aware of the kind of, I guess, intricacies around kind of, you know, race and all those kind of social things that have an impact, right? Yeah, the club life, like you say, it's quite lucky where, you know, it is diverse. You know, I certainly, before I joined the band, you know, you had the likes of, you know, Marlon, Wayne, all those guys that were doing it, different musicians that would come. And so it definitely has felt comfortable at all times. It's never been like, I'm the only black guy here. You know, and you do have that with some bands, like where it really depends on the types of people that
and the energy they're emitting.
Yeah,
as well.
it does because I've been in that situation before. And that's not. I know, obviously, just wouldn't do the gig again, right? Because you know, so interesting.
Yeah, imagine putting yourself through that every week.
Yeah, not like, good. Nah. It's draining stuff. That is draining stuff, man. Yeah, big
that's
time.
Not what you need.
Yeah,
especially when you, like we said earlier, you got to that place where you can be a bit more picky and,
of course,
you should be more selective.
Yeah.
I think that's a kind of like a thing with music where we've been working, you know, tirelessly at it for a long time. I think you get to that point where you're like, nah, I've got to be more picky. I've got to be more selective. And I think having that self-confidence to be like, I'm owed, you know, I'm allowed to now be a bit more picky. Yeah,
I mean, my questions are just really simple. Am I free? Lead with that. Yeah. Secondly, who's on it and am I going to like the people?
Yeah.
Third, fee.
Yeah.
Then I look at whether that works in my family's calendar.
Yeah. If it's like Cornwall or something.
Yeah. I'm not going. Yeah. Unless my family are heading down to the coast and and I
could, we can pair it in. Yeah. We can pair it in.
It's just not happening.
Yeah. So many little factors.
Of course, brother. Of course.
Yeah, it's a mad world we live in.
It's a
I'm trying to count my blessings more and more. Definitely, like having kids has made me think about that a lot more. Big as well.
Time. That would be.
I kind of definitely been like a magnifying to my kind of psyche and counting those blessings of those things and the fact that we can do this, you know, for a career and
wonderful.
Meet so many amazing people and travel the world and do that. We're so lucky, man.
Oh, definitely. Have to just high five you on that. That is definitely what it is about, man. It's all about just the focus, family. You know, even, you know, my feeling of, you know, my own kind of mental well-being and I guess physical as well around that dynamic for my family and all that kind of thing. That's what takes precedent these days, man. That's all I'm kind of focused on.
Well, those things you were talking about earlier will change your energy as a dad and as a person. So if you're going to a gig and you're going to a thing and you feel uncomfortable or you feel knackered, all those things affect how you are as a dad. So when you come home, like that's also what when someone texts you, you're thinking, this is now playing on my mind now. Like, are you going to be taking my energy away from me out of my house? Like, it's a big ask.
Oh, it's a big ask. And,
to get you out of the house. Like, for me, sometimes
brother, that's a really interesting one as well because it does impact your energy, right? Like the things that...
And your mood.
All of that kind of stuff. It really does. Like, and this is why I found it particularly challenging, probably since, to be honest, probably 2016 Brexit, man. Like, it's always kind of big kind of right or left, blue or red. It's always been this kind of confrontation since Brexit, man. I feel like I've kind of been back and forth on loads of either being on the right or wrong. So obviously I'd like to think of myself on the as being on the right side of not politically necessarily, but just being on the correct side of the way that I guess the world is kind of shaping out, right? So that has definitely taken its toll, man. That definitely on me, like just mentally or whatever. So what I've been quite a big fan of is trying to separate that thinking or that strain, separating that from my household, right? Because man, that stuff can weigh super heavy on you. Right. I think so. I'm quite a talker, to be honest, at home. So if something is weighing me down, I'd like to think
more extrovert in there.
Yeah. I like to think that I get that out, man. That comes out in conversation. So I'm quite big on that. My
wife's like that as well.
Yeah, which is super useful. I'm definitely the I guess I'd say protagonist when it comes to us having that at home, but nevertheless it happens, right? There is a conversation that can happen and take place if I am feeling a particular way, and I try and encourage that from my wife as well. So yeah, man, that's something that's always kind of on my mind, like being able to really try and feel safe at home, if that makes sense, like to kind of unwind and feel safe, and not let too many of those things impact.
It's hard with the phone as well. The phone is a big thing. It's hard not to
and
wake
I can be
up
bad
and
on that.
like,
I can be bad on that. I can be kind
everything's on there though.
Yeah, everything.
Your
everything.
Career, all that kind of
stuff. It's crazy. That is a tough one. And even like, you know, even socially, it's crazy. Like, I mean, I as I was saying before, I'm a gamer, right? So even like
you game now at all?
Sparingly, yeah. So
just 7 hours a day.
Yeah. No, I wish I had the time to do that now, but I used to play a lot. And it was like my social time, like when, especially in lockdown, that's when
the
I
headset kind of vibe.
All of that,
nice.
that. You know, we got
Triple
like a WhatsApp
monitors.
group. Yeah. Honestly, like I'm seriously, I do have a kind of double monitor set up for like, and so you know, you're in the WhatsApp group with friends. I've got a friends group that plays all the same games and stuff like that. So yeah, since lockdown, we were hitting it a lot. Then it slowed down with kids, obvious reasons. But only recently, again, I've started to play a little bit more. But I mean, it's like a couple of hours. So now I'm playing Warzone again. I used to play a lot of Warzone.
I'm an obsessive person, man. That's why I had to stop. Like when I used to play Pro Evo.
Oh man, I used to love Pro Evo.
8 or 9 hours a day. At a point where I was trying to get into uni to do music.
Right.
In my gap year, and I was like, I've got to sell my PlayStation. I've got to sell it. Like, if I don't sell this, I'm not going to get into uni, and I'm just going to stay in this room. Just
very addictive, man. Yeah, Pro Evo was another massive favourite. So we used to set up tournaments actually, like a mine. Yeah, we used to proper. Yeah, big gamer. But yeah, it's just the time, man. The time to do it now. It's just
time and the energy.
Yeah, it's just not.
I know that I just get very obsessive.
Right.
So I'm like, I try to pick what those obsessions are.
Interesting.
Like certain things.
Channel it in the right way, man.
But yeah, I try and come out here like in the mornings and try not to look at my phone before like a certain time. Just come out, get some sunlight in my eyes, maybe like do a little workout.
Maybe I need to actually take, take a look.
I don't always do that. I say that.
But what do you find that does?
There's supposedly like getting sunlight in your eyes in the morning, especially for men, is supposed to be like incredible for your mental health, because it's just like, I don't know what it is, it's something to do with the melatonin and the adenosine in your body, where it like kind of wakes you up and tells your body like, all right, this is time, this is ready for the day.
Right. Interesting.
I've heard a few people talk about it on podcasts, and it definitely helps.
I might have to try that,
because my boys, obviously I take them to school like every morning,
right,
and you should see them like they're on scooters, and I'm not joking, the school is about a mile away, and they get to school in about 8 or 9 minutes.
Wow.
And literally it's just like, and if I don't like run, sprint after them, then they are just gone. And it's dangerous because there's roads in between and stuff.
Of course.
So that's been quite good for my mental health, just getting out, getting the sunlight in my eyes, and also fucking exercising.
Nice, man.
So yeah, that's been quite a positive thing every day.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I've picked up the exercise recently.
You're looking great.
Thank you.
We did a bit of a workout together in Mobs.
We did.
Nice.
Yeah. Saw you in the gym, bro. So I've been making quite an effort. Quite fortunately, I did this gig for David Lloyd where they gave me the free membership for the year.
Sick.
So that's been great. So I've been going to my local David Lloyd, and it does make it a little bit easier when the gym's nice.
And you got a crush there as well, right?
They have a crush there.
Crush.
Yep. So it's great. You know, you can take the kids there, have a little breakfast in the club room, and all that kind of thing. So, you know, it is nice, and that's definitely helped with just kind of trying to stay focused on the kind of physical development of in that side.
It helps gigs as well. If you're doing long gigs as well, makes such a difference.
Yeah,
like
man.
saxophones are like what, 6-7 kilos? Do you think you're holding that sometimes for like 7 hours?
That's not easy.
It's mental.
Yeah, and even just the dance moves, like moving side to side, sometimes I come off.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted,
legs,
right? So yeah.
These little buggers. I'm like, fucking hell.
So yeah, I totally agree, man. It's important. And just being able to sing and actually move at the same time, like that is something that
Was it Beyonce used to like sprint on the treadmill and sing?
Yeah. And sing. So I try and if I've done like little runs and stuff, I've tried to like sing songs at the same time, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine that kind of like the distribution of the air.
Bro,
and everything.
It's not easy at all, honestly. Like,
yeah, I find that I almost faint sometimes when I'm doing that dance move on a dance floor and I'm playing sax. Come off, like fucking hell.
Yeah, dizzy. Just let me a few seconds.
Yeah,
yeah.
to the corner.
Yeah, it is one of those ones. But I think. Again, quite fortunately, a lot of the time we're having a lot of fun on the gigs, so that does, that does end up helping, right? So
we should say as well, like I don't know if everyone that's listening to this will be a musician. Like we're going to these places to kind of play tunes, whereas a band of probably like 15 different people, lots of singers, maybe 5 or 6 singers, like a back line, which is all kind of like bass drums, and we're singing like basically the best tunes from the last. What is it, 50, 60 years?
Yeah.
And we're playing that kind of like at weddings and also like private events and stuff.
Yeah.
Because me and Jay were talking about it, and we were like using such like things, we were talking about like in-ears and stuff like that. And some people would just listen to that and be like, the fuck's an in-ear?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So saying having like one podcast where you go through different things. And he was joking about that, like having like a little thing like this is in-ears. These are this is a microphone.
I mean, before even to be honest, even when I started out professionally, I wasn't using in-ear monitors. I was always about foldback monitors, on stage kind of speakers, so you could hear yourself. Yeah. Just for the listeners that aren't familiar. I was so used to doing foldback monitors.
They're so loud though, man.
They are super loud. But I used to love that. My favourite sound on gigs is those kind of old pub gigs where you've got blaring monitors and you can hear yourself at its maximum. Like, I used to just love that sound.
I like that too.
So when I first got into using in-ears, for me, I wasn't too comfortable with it.
It's weird. It's a weird sensation.
It really is.
It's just hearing like in yourself. Your own head.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't used to like. And even now, I still have one ear out all the time.
Me too.
Because I like to hear the room.
Yeah.
I like to be able to feel and understand what their want is.
Yeah, it feels like you're in your own head sometimes.
Yeah. I don't really feel.
I once did a gig with this guitarist, and he put his foot on the monitor. It was a massive fuck up. It was probably like a 15-inch speaker.
Right.
Foot on the monitor. Monitor fell off stage onto a guest.
Oh gosh! Wow. Okay.
And I was there just like, fuck.
Wow. Okay, that's different.
Try not to laugh.
That is different.
Leg.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hope they didn't sue. Yeah.
No. Got my PLI.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say.
Mate.
Amazing.
What a world. What a world to be part of.
That's it.
So yeah, should we wrap this up?
Yes, brother. That has been an absolute pleasure. Max,
I think that's
thank
always
you
those
so
things
much.
where it's like, that's probably a lot longer than we realise.
Oh, I wonder how long that was. That's a good question.
What are you going to guess?
I'm going to say that was around about, without looking at my watch, hour maybe?
Yeah, I'd say an hour and a half. That would be my guess.
Wow.
But yeah, thank you to Mr. Kamara.
Thank you so much.
Absolute legend.
Yes, thank you.
Nice one, mate.
Nice one.